Hi everybody, thanks for joining me today. I'm Karla Jerome, I'm Director of Education, and I have a fun little project that I want to present to you today. I'm very excited about it. Okay, it started out as several different blocks. I'm going to call it Harvest Home, and it's a cute little wall hanging. It's simple to make, and you'll have a lot of fun picking out your fabrics and piecing it together. And this is what we're going to go off of. Now the instructions will be a PDF downloadable that you can access online. I used the fall fabrics, and you notice I have my little turkey, my fall leaves, my little pumpkin, sunflower, and my house. First of all, we are going to talk about my fabric selections, because I feel like sometimes we get stumped of what fabrics look good together and how can I pull them all together and make them look good. Well, I go through an editing choice. So I will pick out fabrics that I like with a theme. So it's a fall theme. So I went and found reds and oranges and burnt oranges, browns, and a lot of different colors. And I'm going to start with the turkey block. Turkeys are mostly browns and grays. So this is the main feather. Then for the main body, I chose this kind of taupey color, and it complements the dark brown as well. Now this dark gray I used for the eye. I have a lot of it, but then these right here are the tail feathers. And this right here I used for the beak and the feet of the turkey. And that was a lot of fun because it kind of pulled everything together. And my off-white is my background. So this off-white, I chose not to do a print for the background because I'm using a lot of prints in it. So with that, I just didn't want to diminish or take away from all the other prints in there, so I chose a solid off-white. And it's not a bright white, it just has a little bit of that warm yellow tone. So that's my turkey, and see how pretty those look together? So this is my border here, so I wanted something to go around it that just pulled everything together. And notice how this has a little bit warmer browns with the polka dots and the darker color, and it just pulled everything together. This is a little warbler and the door to my house. This is the grass for the house, and I found this gray. I really liked it because it reminded me of the shingles that were on my house. So I'm going to actually use this print as my design as I'm quilting, because you can use your fabrics as inspiration for your quilting designs. And that's what I'm going to use with this gray fabric here. And that was really cute and a lot of fun as well. Now let's talk sunflowers. I kind of deviated from the course. I really wanted to use this print right here for the center of my sunflowers. But notice how it's very directional. And I thought, wow, I really want to use this, but I know that if I don't sew a nice even stitch all the way around, it will look slightly off. So what I did is I cut it on the bias. And I thought that was probably a pretty nifty little trick. So by cutting it on the bias, you'll notice I cut an extra one so that you can see. It takes it so it's not so linear, and your eye's not going to be drawn to if it's off at all with your stitching. So that's kind of a fun thing to think about next time you have a checkered pattern on our print, that you could actually cut it on the bias, and it makes an added little element, and it makes it a lot of fun. So that might be something that you might want to try for future. So there it is right there. It's on the bias, and it's kind of at an angle, and I thought it was different and fun. Anyway, so that's my sunflower, and I had a lot of fun. So I used the quick piecing triangle method with the quarter triangles, and I will show you how to do that and what size to cut them in the instructions. Very easy, very simple, and it really pops. So those are my sunflower choices right there. All right, let's talk pumpkin. Now, I spent a long time because pumpkins come in different shades. Some can be a little brighter, some can be a little darker, but these are the two I chose. I chose this for the two sides and this for the center, and I pulled it together with this little green. and I think it turned out adorable. I really like the pumpkin and how it looks kind of flat and long, and sitting side by side with the sunflower, I think it just really makes it a fun little design. All right, then my leaf choices, okay? So along the top, you can't see them right now, I did all these fall leaves, and they just pulled it all together, and they were just choices that I thought looked really good. But this bright green leaf, I really wanted something that was showing the green turning to yellow. So I kind of used a lime color to pull it all together, and that was my end point. And it kind of pulls in with the yellows and the top of this tree. So this tree right here, I just used some of the same fabrics that I'd already been using, and I made it a fall tree. So remember your fabric choices, have a lot of fun with them. And, think outside the box. See where you can pull in something that's been sitting there for so long and add it to a cute little quilt or design. A lot of these were scraps. Now the brown wasn't, it was something that I went out and purchased. Borders are a little different story. Sometimes we don't have enough fabric where with a border you want the length of it and the width of it to be just right. So that's something that you can go out and purchase. But with all of these little squares, I bet you have a boatload full of different little scraps and pieces that you could use to make it a fun little quilt. All right, let's jump in and talk about cutting. All right, I'm not going to jump into that a lot because I feel like you all know what you're doing and you don't need a lot of cutting instructions. You've got the piecing down. It's getting into the quilting that you get a lot of anxieties, but we can work through any piecing issue. And so I want you to remember that next time you run into frustrations and troubles with the quilting side of it, remember that you have the piecing side down, that things don't bother you quite as much. Yes, we all do stupid little things, and we all, cut wrong and sew it together upside down. Yeah, that happens in quilting too. So take a moment, take a deep breath, and relax and enjoy the process, because in the end, it all comes together and looks fabulous. All right, so as I was cutting, I decided to discuss using the correct tools for our cutting and making them and having them work for us. So I have an array of rulers at home. I have so many, and I know all of you probably have a whole ton of them as well. So with the rulers, I want you to think about what sizes are you cutting? And do you need them to be longer, shorter? Are you cutting tiny, teeny little blocks? Or are you cutting big, long strips? And then I want you to look at your ruler selection and pick and choose the correct ruler for how you're cutting. So the 3 rulers that I used most of the time were this little tiny 3x8. I love it. It's great for precise, tiny little pieces. And I also used my 9.5-inch square. Now I could have used the 6.5, but I like the 9.5 because I was working with some larger blocks in here. And the 9.5, every time I would cut iron, I'd come and square up using my square ruler. This is essential. So if you don't have a square ruler and you have a hard time squaring up your blocks as you are piecing, get you a square ruler. I would love for you to get a true cut ruler because I think the lines and the markings actually make it easier for you to square up, and you have an easier time seeing the markings and the 1/8-inch marks from the 3/4. So take a look at them and see how they can help you with your quilting. Now, the other thing I want you to notice is most rulers will have a smooth surface, and we all know this, and they will slip and slide. So make sure you're using your true grips so that you get that added gripping, and so it's not going to move. As we're cutting and moving up our strips, guess what? We have a tendency to, and I'll hold it this way, we have a tendency to shift the ruler because we're pushing against it, and see how it's moving away. And so our strips will be okay right down here, but as we're moving up it, it's going to slip and slide. So when I'm quilting at home, I use my kitchen counter. And yes, it's at the right height. So if you don't have a height adjustable table, let's make it more comfortable for you. Now, I would probably sit a little lower or adjust this table up higher, but it doesn't adjust. So I'm going to hold my hand up here, because I know that there's a tendency for my ruler to start moving this direction as I'm pushing up against it, because we always think that we need more pressure as we're cutting. So hold your hand up here, position yourself to the side, okay, so it's more comfortable, and then undo your release on your ruler, hold your hand, and then start cutting. By holding your hand in this position up here, you're not going to veer off to one side. And that has made a world of difference for me. Just being able to know what is the correct position, and if I'm pushing against it, that the ruler will slide that direction. And the guide on the cutter just keeps you nice and straight and accurate. All right. So those are the 3 rulers that I used all the time. And I went from one to the other, and I just had them there handy and available. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about really quick is this non-skid pad. Now I'm working on a granite countertop at home. And my mat has a tendency to kind of slide and move away from me. With the non-skid pad, and you can wash it because it will get dusty, my mat does not slide on me, so it stays in position. So think about it. As you're cutting and your mat is sliding, it also will make your cuts not as accurate and straight. So make sure that you get this non-skid pad, and it's actually a 24 by 36, so you can cut it down to smaller sizes and use the silicone for a lot of other things. Wow, you can use it for putting underneath your stool as you're quilting, or how about this, your foot pedal. A foot pedal on your machine as you're pushing down on it. Notice how it slides away from you. Part of the silicone mat could go underneath that, and it's going to stay where it's put. So you won't have to be hunting around for it as you're sewing. I just did a lot of that as I was quilting, and that was something that just came to me. I thought, man, I need to put that on my foot pedal. Okay, the other little things I want to talk to you about really quick, and it's just part of the piecing instructions, is following the piecing instructions. They'll be very easy. I used a lot of half square triangles. I really feel like I have this technique down and very accurate, and I feel like the block turns out great. So we're using that technique in this quilt, and you'll see a lot of that technique from me. However, if you want to start making your own templates, go ahead. Do what is easiest for you. This is kind of one that I designed, I made. I'm going to give you instructions, but I'm hoping that you'll make it your own and just kind of put your little spin on it. Then the other thing is for the roof. I tried it a couple different ways, and yes, I did waste some fabric, but I need you to use the template for the roof, and I'm going to add that in the instructions. Most of the others, we are just cutting and sewing together, but there are a couple little templates, one for the turkey, one down here for the turkey, and one for the roof. The rest of it we can cut and put our corners together and piece, and now we're going to talk about the quilting. So as I'm designing and as I'm starting to put my quilts together, I love the designing process, and I hope you guys do too. And I hope you start thinking about, how can I put my spin on these quilts or these patterns that I go and pick and choose. I think it's fun to see what the designer has done, but I also like to see a little bit of you and make it your personality. So with this quilt, I would love for you, maybe you put the pumpkin upside down. That's something I would do. I've done it with pineapple. So try something different. Makes people stop and look at your wall hanging and say, oh my gosh, why is that way? And it just starts a conversation, but it adds a little bit of fun. When we get to the quilting side, I want to talk to you about stabilizing your blocks, I feel like, and putting the quilt on the frame. So, and some template ideas. I have lots of ideas, you guys, lots of ideas. Well, I was thinking about how am I going to quilt this cute little quilt, and what I'm going to do. I told you I was going to use some of the fabrics as inspiration for my quilting designs. But I wondered what could I put around the border. That was the big thing. And I'm not really using the automation. The automation is really easy for me. I wanted to free motion quilt this. So I thought, how could I help you, all of you that have anxieties and they start welling up and it's like, what do I put on my quilt? How do I quilt it? Oh, I'm not good enough. Get those little voices out of here. You're good enough. Well, I have a little way. So I started perusing online for oak leaves and acorns. And so I found this one design right here, and you can see I cut it out. So I folded my paper to be about roughly the size I wanted it to be in my border. So I'll let you notice right here. So this edge right here is just going to be right there. And I thought, oh, okay, this is really cute. And I sized it and everything. And I put it on and started using my white chalk, and I didn't really like it. It was too close together right here. And the acorns, they just didn't look that great. So I thought, I'm going to scrap the acorns. But this is something that you can do at home. You can peruse the internet and start seeing some coloring book designs and stuff like that. Draw them on and cut them out. And now I have this little template that I can make on the inside. Well, I didn't like this one, so I decided to make my own. So I just designed my own oak leaf, and this is what I did. I took some sticky notes, and you can add these sticky notes all the way across and pin them, and you can angle them any way you want. And so this is also a really good idea for you to make your own templates and see how they're going to look across your quilt. It doesn't take that much time. And hey, look, you could put 2 sticky notes together or 3 and cut them all out at once. And boy, you have several little templates. So that's another idea. I thought, oh, cool, that might be a good idea. And that way you could turn, look, you can turn the oak leaves so they're facing each other or facing away. And to bring them up, so I'd go around, I'd come around, up and down, come to the bottom, hit down here, do my little stem, but I'm going to come back up through the center and to the top, and then I'm going to come down and go right down and then start outlining this. So that's how I would do it and make it a continuous line. And that's what I'm going to come and show you. So let's put the quilt on the frame. You'll notice that I am using the Cutie frame and the 16X Elite. Lucky girl I am, and you'll notice that I have the ruler base on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move my machine and my carriage. And you'll notice that I'm not using the leaders today. I'm using my backing and my batting as my excess, so it's going to act as my leader. So I made it wide enough and long enough all the way around my quilt. And there's probably about 6 inches all the way around. I'm going to take my quilt and I'm going to put it underneath the foot, bring it up and over. So you notice I've positioned the machine all the way to the left, and so I want to position my quilt top so it's right below the foot right here. So there's a little bit of space, and I know that when I go and put my quilt clip on or my clamp on, that it's going to actually pull the quilt top slightly. So as I'm moving, I have to account for these clips right here because they can actually get in the way. So I might want to move it down just slightly as I'm thinking about it because of the clips. Because I don't want them in the way. And I don't want them to hit because I don't want to mess up my quilting. Now I can position them so they're back here. So I'm going to go and check right here and see. And I can quilt. I might want to adjust it just slightly, just a tad more. And I didn't use a double batting right here at all. So I'm just going to pull it down slightly, just a little bit more. So I know that I'm not going to have to worry about that. And now I can start pinning it straight across or tacking it straight across. Make sure you get all of your clamps down on it because you want it nice and precise. And try to get it as even as possible. And if you have to use a ruler, go ahead and use a ruler. Here's my 3-inch ruler. Yeah, this is a good one So it gives me at least 3 inches, and I know I need at least 2.5. So this is a good way right here for you to make your adjustments. So use this 3x8. It's a lifesaver, and it's really going to help you as you're quilting. Well, now I have my top of my quilt on, and I just want to make sure that right here I'm not going to get in the way. So I'm going to move these kind of back this direction, because I'm not quilting back here. So these I'm going to push and pull right here. All right, and now I want to put my other clips on. So I'm going to pull it down because I want some tension on it, but I don't need a lot because I'm going to fill underneath, and there's no wrinkles as I'm filling underneath. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And it's not on straight. That's okay, because I'm not using the automation right now. If I was using the automation, man, I would spend a little bit extra time. But I'm free motion here, and I try to get it straight. But the great thing about the automation is that it accommodates for the uneven aligning on your quilt top as you're quilting. So it takes that into account. I'm just going to use my ruler, and you'll notice that, hey, I did pretty good. Right there, and I'll put this clip on because I have enough that I can pull it over the edges. So let me check down my quilt, check my tension. All right, and let's see as I'm moving across if it's hitting the base of the table, the ruler base. Okay, it is, and I'm free to start tacking down. So as you're tacking down your quilt, tack down right along the edges, okay? So I'm going to bring my needle up, needle down. So you have that button on your right handle. It's the needle button right here. See how that came up really nice? Now I'm going to use my thumb and my forefinger again, and I'm going to pull the fabric just slightly, and I'm going to just quilt along the edge. Turn it on, and I'm just going to move up my quilt, making sure I'm pretty close to the edge. All right, so as I'm going this direction, I'm just going to kind of pull this way and just keep it tacked down. And just move across. Actually, this is stitching really nice and very pretty. So I'm really excited about showing the stitches, and I kind of like this off-white on the brown. So that's what I'm going to use to start quilting. So now I've tacked down the edges where I'm going to be starting. The needle is stopped in the down position, which is great. If you're using the ruler base or rulers or anything like that, you need to stop it with the needle in the down position. Now, I haven't put the ruler foot on. I can actually use our rulers with this one to go along it and stitch in the ditch. All right, let me show you the templates really quick, and then I'm going to show you how to stitch in the ditch. And then that's all the time for, but I can't wait for you to see my finished project. So here are my little templates I wanted to show you. Now you can see right down over here in this top left corner that I actually had tried to use some. Well, I might pull it down slightly, and this might be a little too big. So you decide how you want to use it. You could make it like tumbling, so you could have one up here in this corner. See how cute that would be? And then I take this one and maybe flip it right here. And so you could have these fall leaves, and what you'll do is you'll design it, draw it out. Hang on, I'm going to use my ruler base to show you what I'm going to do. Let me get rid of that thread there. So as I'm drawing it out, this may be a little big and I might not use it. So I'm going to draw it out using my little template here. And this isn't that big of a quilt that you could use this template all the way across. Remember, you want to keep it at least 1/4 inch away from the edge of your border to accommodate your binding as you're quilting. So I'd put it right here. Okay, so there's number 1 leaf. Then I'm going to line this one up right here. And notice how I put my angled line right here so that I knew where to put my points. So I'm going to come up and around, and then we'll take them off and see what they look like. And I could probably eyeball this and free motion it, but I thought, hey, how can I help us get past our anxieties as we're quilting? And sometimes just having a drawn line can really help us overcome that. So here's the one. See, I've got it, and I could actually go up and around and make it a little darker right here. And then I could turn it. So this one's like this. Put it up next to it. And using the sticky notes, God, it just is perfect for this border. So it's kind of fun. All right, so let me just quickly draw this one. And then I'm gonna quickly talk to you about stitching in the ditch and stabilizing your blocks while you're quilting. It's something that I really haven't talked a lot about, but it will make a difference in how your quilt looks as you're finishing up. So with this one, I probably need to make this one a little darker, maybe a little fatter. So just look it over and make sure that you're drawing back over it. But look how fun that will be. So I'll start right here, go all the way around, end up here. I'm going to come back along here, maybe do some little sticky, or maybe I'll start right here, end up here, and then come back along here, move to here. There's lots of different ways that I can do it. So I'm going to stop and think about how I want to make this a continuous line all the way across, but I really am liking the way the oak leaves are looking. And you could also even just do one at a time. You could stitch it out and then tie it off and just move on to the next one. That it really would be more convenient, I have to say, to make it a continuous line. Okay, so as you're stitching in the ditch, you need to know the position of your ruler. Now notice that on this one, because it's not the ruler foot, it's not an even shank all the way around. So where you position it, you could be either closer or further away. That's why the ruler foot is really nice and important. I just wanted to talk to you about how to stabilize the block. See, if I stabilize and I stitch in the ditch on the border block, it's going to actually hold all my quilting and look better. And stitching in the ditch is something that you don't even have to draw attention to. So use the color, the same color of thread that you're using on the background, and that's why I'm using this pearl white. And I'm just going to turn it on. Now, when you're in regulated precise mode, when you stop, the needle stops moving. I might want to put it in cruise, but we'll see. We're going to experiment here. So I'm just going to move along and just tack it down. I don't want to, see, I went up into that. But as I'm quilting, I'm just going to be really careful. That's why the ruler foot's really important. Just take your time moving across it. Now, we have made another foot. It's called the Wonder Foot. It's an awesome foot, and it actually has crosshairs and everything. You'll notice that my ruler, I'm positioning it, it's down, but I really want to be careful. Maybe I'm showing the pros and cons as to why you want to get the 3-piece hopping foot set by showing you what not to do. But it's turning out okay. Anyway, so by stitching in the ditch, and so now I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to move to the other side just to show you what it looks like as you're stitching in the ditch. And yes, I would tie that off. Okay, so I want to come here, and I'm just going to show you again what you're going to do to stabilize it. And that means going around each of the blocks or just around this section of the block. You decide how much you want to stitch in the ditch, how much you need stabilized. If you're using automation and like multi-block placement, it's something I would absolutely do because it will shift and move on you. So let's just keep going. All right. You can only see so much stitching in the ditch. I can't wait to get started. Okay, I'm you'll notice that by stabilizing it, now I have 2 points of stability. I have the top and the bottom. Now this section of my quilt's not going anywhere. That's why stitching in a ditch is so important. So, as you're quilting, just remember the little details. Stitching in the ditch, using the metal bobbins, using the correct feet for while you're quilting. I can't wait to show you the end results. I'm going to have a lot of fun using different techniques and my designs, and I'm going to go all hog wild. And when you see it, you'll see a cute little fun quilt that I didn't use any automation on. Thanks for joining me. I can't wait to see you next time. Take care and have a wonderful fall holiday.